The fourth lecture of e-commerce is on the topic electronic data interchange. What is this electronic data interchange? EDI is an electronic way of transferring business documents with an organization internally between its various departments, suppliers, and customers. Let's understand with the example. EDI is an electronic way of transferring business documents with an organization internally between its various departments. Any organization have more than 3, 4, 5 departments like HR department, manufacturing department, packaging department, transportation department, etc. etc. So every department has some standard way of working. So if transportation department is having some query with the HR department or having some query with the management department, then the transportation department has to fill the requirements in the standard format with respect to the particular department to whom they want the information or they want to give the information. This is called the transferring of business documents in any organization. The same thing happens between the suppliers and the customers. If the customer wants some product from the supplier, the customer has to fill the form in some standard format. For example, if you want to purchase from the Amazon or Flipkart, you have to select the product, you have to put that product into the cart, then you need to pay the payment of this. This is the standard format from the customer side. From the supplier side, when you give the order, then the supplier will acknowledge you, will give you the order ID, and they will give you the information that the product will reach at your place within 2-3 working days. And all this comes under some standard formats. So EDI replaces the paper documents in electronic documents such as Word documents, spreadsheets. Previously, before EDI, Word documents, spreadsheets, etc., were formed. But when the EDI evolved, EDI replaced all these things. EDI documents are invoices, purchase orders, shipping request, acknowledgement, business correspondence letters, financial information letter. Every organization has different way of invoice. Every organization has different way of purchase order, shipping request, acknowledgements. EDI is used for electronic fund transfers between financial institutions. When you transfer the money from one organization to another organization, they have some standard formats. For example, if you do the transaction from the Paytm, they have another rules. If you do the transaction from the SBI bank, they have some other form. If you do the transactions from the SDFC, they have some other type of format. So everything depends on the organization to organization. Next is process in EDI. A program generates a file that contains the processed document. The document is converted into an agreed standard format. The file containing the document is sent electronically on the network. The trading partner receives the file. The acknowledgement document is generated and sent to the originating organization. One by one, let's understand this. First point is a program generates a file that contains the processed document. The meaning of this is I am taking an example of a Google form. You have a Google form, you are filling the form, and when you put the submit button, that form saved in a backend either in the form of Excel sheet or either in the form of docx, whatever the creator of that form wants your information. So the information processed in a standard document. Then after that, then the document is converted into a standard format. Okay, the file containing the document is sent electronically on the network. The trading partner receives that file, they acknowledged, and the trading partner acknowledged that he has received the file. Let's understand with the help of this diagram. This is system A and system B. Now system B wants the information from the system A. Now what the system A will do? System A first extract the data, then that data will encode. Now the encoded data through the network layers will come into the system B, and that data will decode it, then data insert, and this system B will get the data, that will get the information of that data. This is how some email is going on. You are giving some email, that email is becomes encoded, then to the network layer, then the email receives in the system B, then it decoded, and it comes into your inbox, and here you are viewing your email, and vice versa this process will go on. This is the standard processes of EDI, and all these Google form emails, I'm just taking an example to today's example to make you feel better to understand all this process of EDIs. Next is benefits of EDI. It is very cost saving. Why cost saving? Reduction of employee hours involved in creation and handling of paper documents, reduction in the cost of fund transfer, reduction in the cost of storage space, and no mailing cost. I hope you can very easily understand this. Speed. Forwarding of documents through a computer network is faster than mail. Accuracy. EDI minimizes the need for leaking information. Communication is direct and easily verifiable. No mail is lost. Security. Information is less susceptible to interception and falsification. System integration. EDI software can be interfaced with internal systems so that incoming data trigger applications and further automation of data processing. Just-in-time support. Speeding up communication enhances intercompany just-in-time operations, which significantly reduces inventory cost. I'm taking an example of this. If you call to the customer care first time for some complaint, after after getting your complaint, the company provides you some complaint ID. Second time when you call them, they will you need to give the complaint ID to them, and they will tell you whatever the process has been done on your complaint, everything they will give. This is called the just in time support. Next is advantages of an EDI system. Reduction in data entry errors. Chances of errors are much less while using a computer for data entry. Shorter processing life cycle. Orders can be processed as soon as they are entered into the system. It reduces the processing time of the transfer documents. Electronic form of data. It is quite easy to transfer or share data as it is present in electronic format. Reduction in paperwork. As a lot of paper documents are replaced with electronic documents, there is a huge reduction in paperwork. Cost effective. As time is saved and orders are processed very effectively, EDI proves to be highly cost effective. Standard means of communication. EDI enforces standards on the content of data. EDI enforces standards on the content of data and its formats, which leads to clearer communication. Evolution of EDI. How EDI evolves. Let's understand the evolution with the history of EDI. EDI starts in the 1960s when computer systems acquired the ability to exchange data with each other. The first EDI messages were sent in 1965 between the Holland American steamship and transatlantic shipping using the telex messages. These messages were then converted into tape that could be loaded onto computers. So this was the first transactions by the EDI messages, electronic messages. They they they, they save the information in some tapes, and in 1968, the Transportation Data Coordinating Committee was formed by a group of railroad companies to develop EDI standard formats. As oceanic shipping companies, railroads, airlines, and trucking companies were exchanging electronic messages. These messages were in varied formats, and it was creating confusion and problems. For example, EDI standard formats. Oceanic shipping companies, railroads, and trucking companies were exchanging electronic messages. Okay, but these messages were creating the formats, were creating the problems because it was not evolved so much. It was on the starting phase. So by 1973, the file transfer protocol was published and enabled file transfer between internet sites. In 1975, the first value-added network, Telnet, was established. The Telnet was the first commercial packet switching network which added more than the basic service of linking computer systems. In 1977, a group of grocery companies and their business partners being drafted an EDI project. The TDCC is renamed the Electronic Data Interchange Association in 1978. In 1978, the EDIA is charted by the American National Standard Institutes and becomes the ANSI X12 committee. The ANSI X12 committee is responsible for the publication of EDI standards. In 1981, the ANSIX 12 standards are published and include the transportation, food, drug, warehouse, banking industries, and automotive industries begin to mandate EDI for their suppliers. That means from 1960s to 1980s, there were so many evolution of EDI formats, and in 1981, then the standard EDI formats form for the different companies for the transportation, for food, drug, for warehouse, banking industries, and automotive industries. The EDI effect, EDI standard is created by the UN in 1985. Now in 1985, the UN has created the EDI effect standards to assist with global reach of technology. While EDI effect was adopted by the automotive industry only at that time, the other United States industries stuck with ANI SI extra standards. In UN, there was the ADI flex standard, uh, and in United States, there was a ANSIX 12 standards. In 1996, with the evolution of Internet, the Uniform Code Council standard EDI over the Internet to standardize the communications of EDI data over the Internet. In 1996, evolution of the Internet comes, and after that, EDI over the internet was standardized. In 2001, the AS by 2 communication standard is published by the UCC. The AS by 2 enables encrypted transmission of data over the internet and uses the HTTP protocol. By 2004, Walmart adopted the AS/2 standard to communicate with suppliers, while other major retailer follow. While other major retailers follow, many retailers continue to use WAN communication. What was that WAN communication? We have studied previously. The WAN communication was the value-added network. It was a telnet services. So Walmart was first one to adopted the AS/2 standard, while the other retailer companies were using the WAN communication. Now nowadays, many retailers like Amazon, Flipkart, Big Bazaar, etc., continue to require suppliers to communicate business transactions through EDI. This is the traditional versus EDI enabled system. A very good example to understand the EDI enabled system. Previously, what we do, customer creates an order through the phone services. Customer sends the order and you receive the order. For example, you are the receiver, so customer is sending the order to you through the phone call. Now you are entering the order. The order is at your PC right now. In your internal systems, order invoice will create. You send the invoice through some fax system. Then customer receives the invoice at his end, and your customer enters the invoice in its own internal system. This was a standard data interchange. Now with the help of EDI, what it happens, there is a standard format of EDI document your customer fills the EDI format and it's automatically saves in your system and you acknowledge. In today's scenario, I'm taking an example of GST form. Every businessman has to fill the GST form. That GST form has standard format. That businessman has to fill all the details of the business and the transaction of businesses in the GST form, and after submitting it, it goes to the GST office and GST office acknowledges the customer. That is whole become that GST form is the standard EDI document. There is a difference between the traditional and EDI versions. In the traditional document exchange, this process normally takes 3 to 5 days. And the EDI document, this process normally occurs overnight and can take less than an hour. Buyers make a buying decision, creates the purchase order and prints it in traditional document. In EDI, buyers makes a buying decision, creates the purchase order but does not print it because electronically you have got the acknowledgement, you have got the invoices and all. Buyers mail the purchase order to the supplier. EDI software creates an electronic version of the purchase order and transmits it automatically to the supplier. For example, you have order on the Amazon, you have put the email ID there. When you place the order, automatically you receive the email and regarding your order. Supplier in traditional, supplier receives the purchase order and enters it into the order entry system. In EDI, supplier orders entry system receives the purchase order and updates the system immediately on receipt. Buyer calls supplier to determine if purchase order has been received or supplier mails buyer an acknowledgement of the order. This is a manual process. If you got some order, you need to acknowledge the supplier. You need to acknowledge to your customer by call or through emails, not emails, through traditional mail services. But in EDI, supplier orders entry system creates an acknowledgement and transmits it back to confirm receipts. A very simple example, uh, in email process, there's a auto generated mail process also there. If you activate that auto generated mail, automatically the person who is sending mail to you, automatically that person receives the acknowledgement from your side. Next is EDI layered architecture. EDI layered architecture is of 4 layers. The 4 layers are: the topmost layer is the semantic or the application layer. It describes the business application in which we request the quotations, price quotes are there, purchase orders, acknowledgement, invoices, specific to company and software used. So application layer is what? The application layer which we are viewing on our computers or through the website or through standard form. This is called the application layer. Now what comes in the backend? When you put your request to the application layer, then the second point comes standard transaction layer. This specifies business form structure so that information can be exchanged. Now, after filling from the application layer, thus whatever the form you have filled, that form translates either in American standards or in EDI fact. Out of these two standards, it depends on the company which standard the company is following. So whatever the order you have placed through the application layer, that order automatically translates into either of the American standards or either into the EDI facts standards. After that, packaging and transport layer, sending a business form from one company A to company B using protocols like point to point, FTP, Telnet, and HTTP, etc. When your information, when your order is um, translated into the American standards or EDI fact, after that you need to transport that to the company B through some transport the information from company A to company B. You need some infrastructure. That infrastructure is of dial-up lines or internet or value-added networks, etc. This is the standard EDI layered architecture in a tabular form, EDI semantic layer, application level services, where you need to place your orders, where you need to ask the price, etc. After that, EDI standard layer, there are two standards. Either this standard will follow or either this standard will follow. Depends on the company, where the company is following which standard. After that, EDI transport layer. In EDI transport layer, either the information goes transfers to the email or point to point or through World Wide Web or through FTP telnet protocols or HTTP protocols. There are various ways to send the information, and physical layer, dial-up lines, internet way. So from bottom to top, first you need physical layer, then transport layer, which you need to follow. It is a point-to-point process. You need to follow FTP, telnet, or email services. Then either of this standard EDI standard layer, which you are following American standards or UN based standards, and then application form. So these are the references, and in the next lecture we will study about the process of EDI message exchange, where we will be able to understand how the messages are exchanged between the two business firms, components of EDI, then EDI standards, and why to use these standards. Thank you very much.